Joining us in studio now, the young lady who is very much steeped into our culture. Let's welcome to our program to speak to us about some of what's going on. Chair of Parsan Productions Limited. That's Miss Darpan Varuna Parsan. Good morning to you.
Good morning, listeners. Thank you for having me.
Nice to have you with us here this morning. I've been seeing on social media the information, the flyers, all that's been going on, and this production that you have. I think it's next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into that, let's familiarize our listeners with you a bit. Tell us a bit about who you are, about your background, and how you got involved in this thing called film and TNT.
So my journey in East Indian culture started in the year 2000 when my sister and I joined Bharatiya Vidya Sansthan. That's where we learned Hindi and music, and our love for drama and the arts grew. We actually ran a branch of BVS for about 5 years, and we tutored many students, children, teens, etc. in Indian cultural arts as well. 5 years ago, I decided to form Parsan Productions because my sister, she's actually a Hindi poet and she has a degree in Indian classical music, and we have an immense talent pool that we just find is, going to waste. So many persons in Trinidad are extremely talented and they don't have a platform by which they can share that talent with the world, including ourselves. So we decided to form our NGO to do two things. One is to preserve and propagate authentic East Indian culture, and our second major goal is to provide a platform via the arts for talented persons to be able to share their talents with the world while giving them this as an option to be a viable career for them. So our overarching goal is to use what we're doing and the work we're doing to both promote culture and provide an actual viable form of employment for persons wishing to pursue the arts as a career choice.
How big has the movement? Let me use movement as a term. Since you started to now, how much has it grown?
It has grown a lot. It has grown so much. So when we first started, it started as a small little cultural group. When we first started our Agman film, which was launched last year, which by the way is the first local Indian feature film to have original Hindi songs, we started with about 10 persons, and by the end, which was 4 years later, we ended with a cast and crew of about 80 persons. So it grew a lot over the years. As we continue to be consistent with our content, we garnered a lot more interest in both in people joining us and people appreciating the work that we've done. Mm-hmm. And it continues to grow.
Yeah, that's highly commendable, because there are many people who share your view. Mm-hmm. That there is this talent pool that just does not have an outlet. I had spent some time, probably about 10 years ago, I think it was, as a member of the NCIC's stage committee. Now that allowed me, I was hosting, I wasn't singing or dancing or anything like that. I was just there as an MC, and I had the opportunity to see the behind the scenes of what goes on to put together a production,
right?
Which is what happens pretty well another on the stage for 9 days or how many other days it is. And it's a lot of work.
Yes.
And many times finding talent that is suitable for that stage, it's not necessarily as challenging because you have everybody wants to be on the right stage. Mm-hmm. But when you look at some of the presentations, it leaves a lot to be desired. Mm-hmm. There are some people who for the entire year are known for certain performances. And it's difficult for some people to make the transition, to understand that this setting requires of you a different performance from what you're used to.
Right.
And that in itself would bring sometimes some discussions about whether or not artists are able to transition from one to the other.
Right.
Or whether they're set in their ways. And we have a raging discussion within the East Indian community about what constitutes East Indian culture.
Right.
It's divided. And it's very, very heated, the discussion sometimes. Working in radio, and I've spent the majority of my career around East Indian radio. There's some people who don't like some people just because of what they do. There's some people who think that some people are doing it better than others, and you will have that in almost any industry. It seems more pronounced in the East Indian industry for whatever reason. You said something. You said about about promoting authentic East Indian culture.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
All right, so what is promoted as East Indian culture in Trinidad is not really what East Indian culture actually is. So, no bashing to any sort of group or anything like that, but remixing Bollywood songs with English songs and putting an upbeat tempo beat to it is what is portrayed as East Indian culture and recognized by the world as Trinidad's version of East Indian culture, when that is not what it is. Our mission is to promote authentic, as in songs that you create from your mind. You sit and you create the music yourself. You don't take music and remix it and call that culture. That's not what it is. All the songs that we create for all of our projects, for our film, and even for our upcoming local Indian play, is our own original music. Like I said, my sister composes all of the music for ourselves. So we use Indian classical music which is basically based on something called rags, which are like a special combination of notes, and there are hundreds and hundreds of rags you could use to create music. Each one, depicts a different mood. It's used for different purposes. This is what we call authentic East Indian culture, being able to create something from nothing, something that is not, belonging to someone else, using our authentic instruments. We don't use any processing or anything to create our music. We use authentic instruments. We use a harmonium, we use a tabla, just like our ancestors would have done, just like how authentic East Indian music is created. That's exactly what we do. And to create original music in that way, it's really, really unheard of. No one really does that anymore. And I could say for a fact that no one does what we are doing right now, to be able to create music and apply it to film and apply it to theater, all original. No one in Trinidad in the Indian cultural arena is doing that right now, and that is something we are extremely proud of.
Is there the market for it though?
Of course, I believe there is. I really, really believe there is. There is an appetite for this, or else we wouldn't be selling tickets. So there is an appetite out there. But there is a huge group of, young East Indians who would prefer to support the other type of Indian culture rather than the authentic one. So it's an uphill battle for sure in getting more persons to be interested in their own culture, but there is a market for sure.
We've been having a number of discussions on Fridays about culture. They started in January of this year, and they've been going on for every Friday since then. And I've had the opportunity to speak to persons across the spectrum, from soca, chutney soca, calypso, pan, this, you name it. We've discussed it basically on the program. And one of the things that has come out from the calypsonians and the soca artists and others is that the industry shapes what the performers produce. And that's because performers looking to make money. This is their job. And if they don't produce what the promoters want them to produce, they sit in ducks. They can't make any money. They're not going to be invited to the shows. They're not going to be touring and all that kind of thing. So it's a tail wagging the dog kind of system. Which we spoke to mass presenters and all of them, and they're saying the exact same thing, which I find to be so interesting, because in other parts of the world you have musicians who make their music and people gravitate towards the music because they can relate, not because some promoter wants to push this thing. But here at home, it's the exact opposite for us. This must be an uphill task for you because you're swimming against the tide.
So it all comes down to what your goals are. If your goal is to make the fast money, I could understand that being the agenda. However, that is not the case with us. We've been approached by persons, and persons have suggested to us before, why don't you do a little crossover? Why don't you, do this and do that? And that would compromise the quality and the standards of our music and what we're trying to do. And we've had to say many times that, that is not the road we want to go down. We don't want to promote our content on certain platforms because we want to maintain our authenticity. And like I would have said at the beginning of the interview, our goals are basically to promote authentic culture while giving persons a platform to be able to use it as a career option. Those are my goals in mind, and everything that we create is strategically geared towards achieving those goals. And getting rich is not a major goal. Of course, we need money for sustainability and all of that, but what we have is sufficient and it's going well. And there are people all over the world who would appreciate and are appreciating our content for what it is, and that's what we'll continue to do. We're not going to bend on our authenticity at all.
Let's speak about your content in greater detail now.
Sure.
What exactly are you producing?
Okay, so one thing that sets us apart from every other Indian cultural group is the fact that, like I keep saying, we create our own music. So we have a YouTube channel. Everyone can go and take a listen, Parsan Productions. That is really what sets us apart. So we would take our songs and incorporate it just like in a Bollywood style, where you would watch a Bollywood film and they have music throughout, well incorporated into the storyline. That's what we did with our film Agman. All of the songs were intertwined into what was happening in the story. The lyrics and everything, it made sense as to what was going on in the story. And it's the same thing with our dramas as well. The songs are created specifically for what the characters are going through in the story. So that's basically what our content is: music, film, and theater.
Yeah, I think it's honorable. I've said that before. And it's a step in a direction that there is a need for.
Yes.
How great of a need, I wouldn't be able to say at this point in time, but there definitely are people who do not associate with the massive crowds. They do not associate with the fets and the parties and all of those things, but they want to come out with their family. And they want an avenue, a venue, a production or something that is in tandem with their views. It's not as widespread as maybe it should be. One of the persons that we spoke to some time ago was Graham Chukong about the very same thing, theater. And he said during the interview something that was interesting. He said that people don't necessarily go to plays simply because they've never been to a play. So they don't understand what plays are. And the value, the entertainment, the hard work that goes into it, people aren't exposing themselves to it. And he said that he blames the education system for not encouraging children from that age to grow up to be citizens who appreciate the arts. And we had another interview recently where they drew the example of other societies, like France and the English and all of these, where the arts are integral to who they are. And they do have the subculture as well, where you have the parties and the dimes and the discos and all of those things. Somehow or the other, they're both able to coexist. But can both coexist here at home to that level where you get the prominence, you get the support that you're looking for?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that ties into my second goal. When persons study film and theater and so on here in Trinidad, what room is there for them to apply what they've learned? We don't really hear about, you would study medicine, you would study marketing and whatever, you would go on and you would get a job in Trinidad and everything would be okay. Let's be real, that is not the case with theater arts. That's not the case with creative arts. Our parents, when we're young, we are not encouraged to pursue the arts as a form of, education or career or anything, because we have this ingrained in our heads that, you can't make a living out of it. So this again ties back into my second goal, where I want to change that. I really, really want to use our NGO as a platform to change that narrative and give persons an opportunity to do just that, make a living out of the performing arts. We have huge dreams, our NGO. We want to, one day have our own building with our own infrastructure and all of that, where we could, once for the week have our screen show only local content. We have so many local filmmakers, but apart from the film festivals every year, where can we see their films? Where can we hear about them? Where can they get exposure? So we have so much untapped potential, and Parsan Productions wants to not only push our own agenda, but support the performing arts as a whole in the country. So we want to help bridge that gap between, having an option to not having an option as using the performing arts. So we are going to change that. I'm sure we will.
Well, I can tell you that there's a lot of talent for you to pull from. I go back to this NCIC, my time there was a competition called a youth champ competition, I think it was. And at the semi-finals, not the one that people would see the final, because that's the final part, people would see that one. The crowds would come there for that. At the semi-finals, you would have a talent pool. Now, it takes a lot to impress me. I am as critical as you can get.
Okay.
And it does take a lot to impress me. But I had the opportunity to be left speechless by some very young people, 12, 13, 15-year-olds, who would take to that stage. And they would sing without the accompaniment of any kind of technology to make them sound better. And you would be amazed at the talent that they have. But I sat looking and listening to them, and I immediately realized that this final, if they make it to the final, was as far as they were going to go.
Exactly.
Because there is nothing further for them.
Exactly.
There are no platforms. We don't have any competitions that give them the kind of other prominence. You definitely can't make money off it because no promoter would not in their fat and that kind of thing. But the talent, and it's sad because when they realize that to themselves, that I really can't take this nowhere else unless I start to sing this thing that everybody else wants.
Exactly.
A lot of them choose not to, and they bury their talent. Their careers die, and it leaves them frustrated. And I do hope that this initiative that you're on gets the kind of momentum that we probably need. Funding is always an issue. People have to live, and as you rightly did say, it's a culture where if your parents don't think you can make money off of this thing, they ain't promoting it. They ain't helping you. There are far and few in between some cases where some people have had that support and they've turned into the successes that we see today. Nibal Chaitwal is a classic example of somebody being able to navigate both ends of the spectrum. And we have others like him as well. But it's sad, the number of people who can make it if they have the venue, the opportunities, but they just simply don't. And I don't mean to sound pessimistic, but the industry is not designed for them.
No, it's not pessimistic. It's the truth. But again, that's what we are trying to do. There is no shortage of talent for sure. When we hosted auditions for our current project, Raja Chauhan, I was overwhelmed by the amount of persons that applied. And it saddened me because I didn't have room to, allow more persons to join the team. So I don't see me ever running out of talent. The talent pool will always be there. It's always open for persons to apply as well. And with respect to your comment about funding, yes, of course, that is always an issue. When we did Agman last year, when we launched Agman last year, everything leading up to Agman was mostly funded out of pocket, which was a burden by itself. But things have come around a lot. A lot of people have taken notice of us and helped us along the way. And the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and the Arts have also agreed to sponsor Raja Chauhan for us this time around. So that's awesome that we're getting the mileage and the recognition that is due. And we just want to thank the ministry for that, of course.
Tell us more about this play.
All right. So Raja Chauhan is the story of a warrior from Rajasthan. It's a period piece drama. There was actually a Bollywood film about it. The film's name is Samrat Prithviraj. So it's I don't want to give away too much of the synopsis, but it's basically a love story mixed with a little bit of drama and regular family contention over a couple wanting to be together, and then there's a little drama at the end with a twist in the story and all of that, and it all ties together nicely with our own original music. We are doing something called Garba, authentic Garba moves. That is also something that is not done by dancers in Trinidad. So the play is going to be wonderful. It's going to be about an hour and a half long. And we kept the dialogue short and concise, so it's not going to be a situation where the actors are talking on and you're getting lost in the story. It's not going to be like that at all. It's going to be very entertaining. It's going to keep you on the edge of your seats because there is no room to get bored. The first show that we're having is on the 12th of August at Sapa, and then we're having a North show on the 27th of August at Queen's Hall. You could visit our website, parsanproductions.com, or contact me on 399-3161 for tickets and more information.
Script writing, is that your purview, or do you have a team, or how does it work?
Yes, so we have a wonderful team. This time around, I was blessed with a wonderful cast and crew. Everyone is extremely helpful and always willing to go the extra mile to help each other out. They are a really good support system. My lead actors is Nazir Ramdat. He's playing Prithviraj Chauhan. We have Kiran Tulsi playing the bad guy. And we have a lot of other persons. Our cast and crew is about roughly 15 persons. Yeah, so we've been able to incorporate young persons, which is something that I always want to do, because they are the ones who needs to, take over when we, need to retire. So we do have a lot of young people involved in our works as well, and they are all extremely vital to the success of what we've been doing so far.
What's next?
Oh, so next year we actually want to start having 2 plays consistently run every year. And we want to strike a balance between the romantic type plays and also religious type plays, because that's something that we need to continue propagating as well. Apart from Ramlila every year, there's no Indian cultural group that takes religious plays about the Ramayana and the Bhagavad Gita and, of course, not the Mahabharata and all of these things. You don't hear these stories. You don't see them. So we want to start changing that and incorporating it into our strategy. So come next year, we're going to be doing a play based on the Ramayana. That's in October. In March, we'll do another romantic play. And of course, next year, we want to start shooting for our second local film. It's going to be based on Trinidadian folklore, and it's going to be from an East Indian perspective. So it's something really exciting to look forward to. We've already started working on the scripts, and this time around, it won't be based on something totally East Indian, so we're hoping to get the interest of multi-ethnicities in our next film.
Yeah. There's definitely some honorable objectives there. When it comes to theater, we've been speaking about the engagement, and whether or not people like it and so on. And you've been saying that, yes, the market is there, and I agree with you, it is there. And I'll give you another example. I'll give our listeners another example of why I say so. Some time ago, Ramlila is a big deal.
Yes.
But we've become accustomed to the savannah. You have somebody on a microphone telling you what's going on and people just playing it out. But I had the opportunity to be invited to a production conducted in Palmas Park. I think it was by the Pandavas. I'm sorry if I got the group wrong, but I think it's Pandavas. They were on the program and they invited me to come, and I went. Now I'm accustomed to Ramlila being this thing in an open savannah. You stand up around the savannah, just look at what's going on. It was a full-fledged production.
Right.
I'm talking about with the characters, mic'd, the characters themselves presenting the script and all of these things. The sound system was, it was a cut above the rest. It was exactly what you're talking about. It's theater. Ramlila is theater, but we don't see it as theater. We haven't been taught that this is theater. And it's theater that depicts a very integral part of the East Indian culture and the religion and everything else. When you go and you see how young children are involved, how they like it and they want to go back and that kind of thing, it really does say that if they're exposed, if the opportunities are there and people go to these things, it will grow. And I do hope that from this production to the others and to all that you have in plan and in train for years to come, that you get the momentum, you keep the momentum, and that the growth is there. Let's give people, as we wrap up our interview here, the nitty-gritty about this production and how they can get tickets and all of these things. And I want you as well, if people want to become involved in your organization, how can they do so?
All right, so tickets for our next production, to mention the dates again, it's Saturday, 12th of August at Sapa. And then the 27th of August at Queen's Hall. To get tickets, you can contact me on 399-3161, or you could go to our Facebook page, Parsan Productions. To get involved in Parsan Productions and our future works, you could visit our website, parsanproductions.com, and send us a message on our contact form, and we will definitely keep your record on file for our future productions. We have auditions starting by the end of this year for our productions next year. So please come out and support our theater production next Saturday and Sunday 27th. All our proceeds go back into promoting East Indian culture and all of our developmental works. So we would really appreciate the nation coming out and supporting our talents.
What's the cost of the tickets?
Ticket costs, we have VIP, which is $250 for adults, $200 for kids. General is $150 for adults and $100 for kids.
Well, thank you for being with us here this morning. I love doing these interviews simply because I understand the potential that exists.
Right.
I've seen it firsthand, and I've spoken to persons who are involved, want to be involved, were involved, and never going to be involved again because all these issues. And I think we need to have more discussions like these.
Yes,
We
agreed.
need to share the focus amongst the good, the bad, and the indifferent. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you.